Okay, I want to call this joint meeting of the council and the commissioners in order, so please rise. Nick, would you please say the prayer for us?
My Father, we thank you tonight for your grace and your mercy. We ask for patience tonight, Father, as we deal with, I believe, one of the largest issues I've ever dealt with in Owen County as I've been in government. Father, we ask that you would put your hand in protection of those men and women who might be in harm's way tonight. Lord, we're challenged on every side here in this great nation, but we know that you'll be with us. Guide and direct now, Father, and forgive us when we fall short, for we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for coming. I appreciate your attendance here and those on YouTube. If you have not already done so, please sign in. We also have a sign-in sheet for public comment at the end. We're going to set a few ground rules. We're going to have...
Can you speak up or speak here?
Okay.
Holly, you want to?
I can, but I've got my, I don't know, will that just scoot up? Okay, excuse me. We're going to have public comment. Please sign in so we can do this in order. And I just ask that everybody keep it to a three minute. And also, if someone has asked the same question that you're going to ask, please defer to the next person. We just want to be respectful for everyone. We want everyone to be heard. We want to address all of your concerns. And that being said, Anton has come up with the good idea of we're going to all introduce ourselves as well as our panel down here as well. So Norm, you want to start?
Sure.
Norm Warner, County Commissioner, District 1.
Anton Neff, Council, District 2.
Sam Hobbs, County Commissioner.
Tony Everholt, County Attorney.
Dave Riss, County Commissioner, District 3.
Holly Chesser, County Council at Large.
Burl Keith, County Council, District 4.
Daniel Browning, County Council at Large.
Joe Fry, County Council at Large.
Nick Robertson, County Council, District 1.
Steve Carroll, County Council, District 3, Cameron.
Jordan Keith with Keith Realty.
Greg Whalen, architect with Elevance Architecture.
Dustin Fry with BW Construction.
Jeff Peters, Financial Advisor to the county.
Mary Harrington, Thorne County Title.
Sheila, are you going to introduce yourself?
Sheila Reeves, Thorne County Auditor. Better. Just need that to you for Dan, you guys.
Dan Zerner, Garland Construction.
Jonathan Harkins with BW. Chris Sailors with Elevance Architecture.
Thank you so much. All right. Commissioner comments.
I'm ready. We just appreciate everybody coming tonight. We know it's been a long study for everybody. I know there's going to be some questions and stuff. We're just going to work together to make the best of this and then proceed forward the best we can. So hard decisions have to be made tonight, and we understand that. And good, bad, or indifferent, we're in this together for the betterment of the community. And I just want to thank everybody for coming and all the questions and stuff that's been presented in the past and that'll be presented tonight.
Any other comments?
I'd also like to thank everybody for coming. This has been a big one, and hopefully everybody gets their questions answered tonight. That's all I got.
Yeah, we're up here, all of us are here, so we want to hear all your concerns, good, bad, or indifferent. Tonight's your night.
Any council comments?
We can't hear you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to use the microphone. It's echoing from out.
That's a great.
Yes, that's, thank you.
What's that?
It's echoing from out here. Wait till we're here and here. It's the delay. Because they're last year and last year.
Okay. How do we want to address that to make it easier
We
for
can
them?
turn the volume down out there, but then it's not, all they're gonna see is the video, so.
That's why it's hard to hear, because you get the background noise. Use the microphone.
Just use the microphone? Just as long as that won't, I mean, because I want to be respectful of everyone watching on YouTube as well. And I know these microphones are, so any ideas on that, Norm?
So only 4 of them work, right?
I believe only 4 of them at a time work, so you might have to share, but you're the one we can't hear, Paul, so.
Okay.
Use the microphone.
I apologize.
You hear that?
Can you hear that okay?
Yes.
Great, okay. Well, we'll just pass this around, I guess. I want to say that this project has not been gone into lightly. None of us up here want to have to spend this much money on a jail. And it wasn't until I saw for myself, and I did do the video on Facebook to see what our current jail and what disrepair. And we've even looked into, repairing that, and that was going to cost an exorbitant amount of money, and it was only going to gain us 10 years. We've looked into different areas to buy land in, and I truly feel that what we're looking at right now is the absolute best place that we have seen in the last 5 years, because we've looked all over the county. I myself, and I know the rest of the council and the commissioners, have spent hours and hours studying this and making sure that your tax dollars are put in the best possible way. Like I said, do we want to spend $38 million on a jail? Would we rather spend it on roads or something like that? Absolutely. Absolutely. But right now, our backs are against the wall, and we've been told that our insurance is only going to insure the current jail for another year. There's so many things that this is the time that we have to move forward, and it's costing the taxpayers money the longer we wait. And we have done our due diligence. I've tried myself to be as transparent as possible. And this is your meeting. I want everybody to be able to come up and voice their concerns, ask the questions, and hopefully we can, alleviate some concerns and go on from there. So any other council members? Anybody else want to say anything? Because I don't want to take up too much time.
Can you explain exactly what tonight's for?
Okay, tonight we have two resolutions. One is for the council, and that is to appropriate money to purchase the land. Is that correct? And Tony, our attorney, is going to read that resolution when we get ready to vote on that. There's also a resolution for the commissioners. Tony, do you want to explain some of those a little bit better?
Sure.
Or do you want that? I don't know if they're able to hear us. There we go.
First resolution is a resolution that has to be passed by state statute, where the council is going to vote on making a necessary appropriation of the money. Second resolution is a resolution that will be considered and voted on by the commissioners, and that will be to purchase the land. Obviously, we get to the second resolution only if the council first appropriates the money. And that's what I'll be reviewing and going over.
All right, if there's no other comments by council commissioners, let's go ahead and move on. On our first presentation is with BW and Dustin Fry. Do you want? Thank you.
All right, well, good evening. I'm Dustin Fry, President, VW Construction. We appreciate the opportunity to come and present to commissioners and council and the public on where we currently are with the current project. So over the last several months, we've been working with Elevatus and Garmong to refine a design and budget and a site. And so the goals tonight are to update everyone where what we currently have from a site perspective, where we are in the design progress, what that looks like, and then a high-level schedule, as well as the preliminary cost estimates that we have. We ultimately want to make sure everybody's up to date and has all their questions answered, so as you continue to move forward with the large purchase of land, we can continue to guide through that process. I do want to make it clear from our perspective, tonight's vote isn't necessarily for the jail project in general. There will be multiple steps that we still have to go through in the BOT process to get the design finalized, come back in front of the commissioners and the council with final guaranteed maximum price and design specifics for approval, and then ultimately the bond funding process. But the hope is tonight that everything will be out and all questions get answered, and we can move forward in good faith that we know what direction we need to go as a team to get the county what they need. So we'll start off talking about the land purchase and what due diligence we've done over the last few months on the site. So the proposed site's just over 18 acres, right off State Road 46. 3 key pieces of information that we go through with any land purchase. First and foremost, a phase 1 environmental. Yes. Go to page 3, next slide. Right there. Phase 1 environmental, Patriot Engineering Environmental did this testing and analysis. There were no issues reported on the site, no environmental concerns, and they do not need a phase 2, which would be the next step if anything were to be found in the reporting. So that box is checked. Survey has been completed from a boundary as well as a topographical perspective so that we can do the necessary site layout, which I'll have our partners at Elevatus talk about here momentarily. And then last, from our perspective, is a geotechnical report. Patriot Engineering also completed that testing where they come out and do soil borings across the site to confirm the structural capacity, the water table, multiple elements to that. And the positive from that testing was that this building, where it would be located, can be built with conventional foundations and slabs, and there's no special foundations or deep foundations that would need to be completed to support this structure, which is extremely positive and a cost savings to the project, because the previous sites that we had looked at would have required additional monies be spent on the foundation system. So ultimately, from that perspective, this land and site is clear and ready to support the project here. We'll go to the next slide, page 4 here, and I'm going to pass off to Greg with Elevatus to talk through the design perspectives.
So on the, for the site, We've located that at the southwest corner of the property and along the highway. We've also created two entrances off of the highway, so that way, from a safety standpoint, that is, there's always access to the site for the sheriff's department. I'll talk a little bit more about the access to the highway from a design perspective in a second here. On the site, what you see to the right of the building, the appendage that sticks out, that is the vehicle sally port, and there's parking, staff parking on the east side of the building, and also the row of parking on the west side is also staff parking. The parking out to the south next to the highway is public parking. And you'll see to the south of the building, there's a dashed-in area. That's an area that the building could be expanded to. That's the administrative portion. And then there's also out to the back, the north side, another addition that could be added, and that could be an additional housing pod for the future. We could go to the next page, if you could. I want to talk a little bit about the access off of the highway. There's some more due diligence that needs to occur. There will be a traffic operational analysis that NDOT requires. Not a real in-depth survey, but it needs to happen to go through and check all the boxes with NDOT. But what we've shown here is a location that works with the adjacent driveways, say into Walmart or into the Y. There's distance requirements that are required on how far or how close entrances can be to each other, and this location, we have room to slide it either way and make it work. So we're in good shape that way. We will need to do some reconstruction of the sidewalk because we'll be doing A-cell, D-cell lanes in that area. And then there's some rework on the ditch, drainage ditch. Again, not anything that is uncommon to a process like this. When I go to the next page, that's just a rendering of the front of the building, what it could look like, and that's that. And if we go to the next slide. Go right. The building itself is about a little over 38,000 square feet. The area to the right is the administrative portion of the building. Kind of down the center is the intake, booking and intake processing area, also with kitchen, laundry, those facilities kind of in the middle. And then the housing pod to the left. And the housing pod is set up with six classifications that have cell housing, and there are 6 of those at 16 beds per day room, and then there are 2 smaller day rooms that are dorm, set up for a dorm bunk bed, basically, and it's open, no cells. Those areas have 8, each of those have 8 occupants per, so it's 112 is the bed count. And we've gone through this plan has been worked with the sheriff's involvement and his staff over the last 2 years really. So we think we've got a plan that really works for them and that will work for today's time and also well into the future. So we're pleased with the arrangement of all the facilities within the floor plan. The next page just shows that it's a 2-level, it's a mezzanine system where we've got a row of cells on the first floor and then a stair up and a mezzanine walkway in front of the second level of cells. And that's all inclusive of the 112. That's what happens on the second level. You want to take that, or are we going to?
Yeah, I can take that. We go to the next slide, we'll talk through kind of schedule and what this project would look like, assuming that tonight the land purchase is approved through those resolutions and what our next steps would be. So we're in the midst of the design process. We are in what we would call the schematic design phase. And so the overall design process will take about 4 to 5 months to complete, to get through detailed drawings, the NDOT design requirements that Greg had mentioned, the site civil design, architecture, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the full process, leading up to the construction documents being complete sometime in early December. We would be taking, our team would take those documents along the way, and we would be updating the estimate that we have put forth, and give real-time information to commissioners and council of where we are cost-wise as we go through that process, ultimately culminating in what we call the GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price. That would be presented in December and January, and that's what would take place, that's what the county would take action on within the BOT agreement, and would ultimately fund through the bond process that Jeff can talk about here in a little bit. Once we get through that process, it sets up from a good timing perspective from this project in terms of when we would go to bid for the GMP at the end of the year, and then getting ready to start construction come spring when weather breaks again. So, and right now, duration to build this project would be about 24 months once we would start next April. We'll go to the next slide. We'll talk about the current budget. So current all-in project budget is, which is inclusive of all construction costs, the land, some off-site sanitary main extensions, the design fees, financing, contingencies, the whole everything, is currently at $38,621,444 for the 112 beds that Greg had mentioned. The next page is kind of a breakdown of what makes up that $38.6 million. On the left is the divisional breakdown from a construction hard cost perspective that we refer to it as. The various divisions of work that make up that project, including the site and any allowances. So you'll see at the bottom left, there's an unsuitable soil allowance, $250,000. And then you get on the right into various soft costs that support the hard costs for contingencies, staffing, insurance, bonds, fees, FF&E, and then financing cost, land purchase costs, the sanitary main replacement, and then to explain the bottom line item there for ad beds and holding cells back, we had a couple options that we've been considering in the design process with the jail committee over the last few months. And so one of the options was for less beds and eliminating some of the holding cells and some of the admin area. And so this total is what was the add back to the project to make sure that we had those spaces built into the design that Greg's mentioned today. Couple points to point out here. As I mentioned earlier, this is a preliminary cost estimate, but we feel very confident in where we are with the numbers. In what should be considered a conservative approach as we continue to work through this process and as we get more design and subcontractor input, hopefully that cost continues to refine down. The contingency line items between the estimating, design, and escalation, and then construction contingency, over the design process and through the time that it'll take to get through that $1.25 million there on the top right is the contingency that would get absorbed first as we refine through a design process, as well as escalation. Escalation, for those that aren't aware, is as time goes on, things tend to get more expensive. And what we've seen over the life of the construction industry over the last several years is some significant escalation, specifically since COVID in 2020. But it's started to level out. But realistically, depending on which trade line you're looking at, you can figure somewhere between 4 to 6% annually of this cost increasing as time goes on. And for a project of this magnitude, that totals about $125,000 a quarter as we wait to continue to get into a contract with subcontractors. The contingencies and allowances, this will be a 100% transparent, open book process with the commissioners and council. And so as those funds would need to be used, you would see that. And upon the completion of the project, any unused funds from the contingency or allowances get returned back to the county. That process is something that we committed to from the beginning, and we'll continue to make sure and be transparent in all those costs as we work through this. Land purchase, the $1.62 million is for the 18.003 acres that's being presented tonight. I think those lines match up. We're still working on the necessary sanitary main replacement and extension that's necessary, and those will continue to get refined as we get through the process. That being said, I think I'll pass it over to Jeff Peters here to talk through funding.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
For those of you who are following stuff on the county webpage, these were updated earlier. We received actually a couple updated copies from them. So look on there to find the updated ones, and Jeff's, and there's, yeah, this is the 4th version of this, and we updated them as it come along. The latest one was making sure that the increase for the property amount was on there. So it is on the webpage. Anything that anybody is talking about tonight, if you don't have access to the webpage, give us a holler in the auditor's office and we will get it to whoever. And again, we just want to make sure everybody understands why the numbers have changed tonight from what they were at 8 o'clock this morning.
Thank you, Sheila. If you could go to the next slide. This is something that we've been talking about for the last year and have refined since we got out of the legislative session in the spring. You'll remember that we looked at the changes made in the 25 legislation a year ago to develop a plan of finance and then refined it in 26 based on the changes that the legislature made in 26. You do have a valid plan of finance in order to get through all this. to walk first through the sources and uses. The par amount of the bonds, we assumed that the bonds to be sold will be 20-year bonds. Due to the timing in that bonds that are backed or secured by property taxes can only be outstanding for a total of 20 years. It's really like 39 payments. But looking at that, we assume that that will be a 20-year bond issue. It is assumed to have coupons of about 5%, which is where the reoffering premium is shown there at about 2.4 million, par amount of the bonds at about 32.15 million. Because in today's market, the overall interest rate is less than that 5% coupon. Bond buyers will pay you a premium today for you to pay them 5% interest payments in the future. That amount in sum, if we were to sell them, would equate to about 2.4 million. And again, these are just estimates as of today for your plan of finance. All these will change and refine as we go through the process. Cash, we had talked about before that you would have about $4 million of correctional facility lit. You've probably got some other funds as well. Based on the change in the land purchase, we put in another placeholder of additional cash of $60,270 to equate for all the uses that Dustin had walked through to equal that $38,621,000. A couple things to note is in your plan of finance and the timing, it lines up with them, the DW, going through the process and getting to the guaranteed maximum price. Simultaneously, while they're refining those numbers, you'll be going through the financing procedures of approving something similar to this. You know, the gross amounts will be a little bit bigger so that we can walk through this process and have some variability if conditions change as we go through it. But what will happen is you'll give these approvals, you'll have public hearings in order to get additional public comment on the financing and getting through the process of the issuance of bonds. When we get to that January date where they come to us with a guaranteed maximum price, we will then scale down all those approvals so that we only sell the amount of bonds that you need in order to fund the project once we have actual bids. So just like your budget that you always do, you go a little bit high, you refine it down, and that's what we'll do. And the point of that, where it really gets scaled down, is when they actually have those bids and produce that guaranteed maximum price for you. We'll cut that to its lowest possible amount so that you don't borrow any more than you have to, and you minimize your interest costs. The other things that we've talked about in your plan of finance that are in this assumption and what we've looked at again to try and minimize costs are, there's no capitalized interest in this project. Typically, when you do a project of this size, as it has to be done through a lease rental process for a building corporation, you typically have to pay capitalized interest during the construction period. What we have talked about is having a substitute asset as part of the lease arrangement, so you don't have to do that. And the thought is that it will be this building. And the value of this building, because it's held free and clear of any debts, would be a sufficient replacement asset to make the interest payments or the equivalent to the interest payments during the construction period, plus a little bit of a buffer. The other part of the financing and the repayment that we've talked about before, I'll just review it since we've got a bigger group here tonight. The county over the last several years has implemented additional income taxes specifically for this project. Years ago, you went with the correctional facility income tax. Then after that, you went with public safety income taxes in order to get that revenue stream up high enough that you believed you could undertake a jail project sufficient for your needs. Legislation was significantly changed in 2025. All those income taxes that exist today go away at the end of 2028. And you will have to adopt a new local income tax regime in 28 that begins cash flow in 2029. Those cash flows are potentially greater than what it is you have today. And that is part of this model that we've shown. So as part of the approval process, what we anticipate doing is that you will utilize the county's property tax base as the true security to pay off these bonds. And we do that for two reasons. One is it will give you a better bond rating, which too will result in lower interest costs to all taxpayers. However, you are fully anticipated to repay all of these principal and interest payments with the income taxes that you have in place today. You might have to utilize some cash balances during 27 and 28, like we've talked about, and then that new revenue stream from 2029 forward until these bonds are paid off. In looking at the projections that we made on income taxes and the cost of this financing, this is anticipated to have semi-annual or annual payments of about $2.6 million a year. The revenue stream is estimated to be almost $2.8 million a year at 2.4% local income tax. Today, the county's local income tax is 2.5. And we talked about, as part of the legislation, there are 4 or 5 components of the local income tax under the new legislation. The two primary ones for you as a county council and your revenue stream is you will be allowed to impose 1.2% countywide and collect all of those funds for you to utilize as you do today for all county services, plus to help do and support the debt service for these outstanding bonds. You also will have the ability to do 1.2% for municipalities in your county, which would be Spencer and Gosport, under a 12-step formula that was developed in the 26th legislative session, which works out to about 23% of that revenue stream. The remaining 70-some% comes back to you at the county for you to use for functions such as this and other county functions. So those two together get you that approximately $2.8 million revenue stream. So you have a valid belief that your income tax receipts are going to be more than enough to pay this debt service, which should allow bond counsel to say, yes, you can pledge the property tax as the backup, but the actual payment will be through income taxes. Therefore, you'll go through the procedures of approving this debt as though it was income tax. Today, your income tax rate is 2.5%. We talked about 2.4%. So there's another 0.1, which is about $500,000 a year, that you could then talk about. Do you need to give additional money to townships, libraries, do you want to do some fire and EMS? Those are all options. You had talked to me as a group that you wanted to stay at that 2.5%. I think that's plausible. The new legislation, though, also gives you the ability to go all the way to 2.9%. So if you have issues with townships, fire department, EMS, libraries, you have the ability that you could go above that if needed. Potentially you don't have to, but you have that flexibility, which again will be a good thing when we go to get your bond rating. The more flexibility you have, the more ability you have to repay these debts and then not be in question, the better your bond rating will be and the lower your interest cost will be. We've also worked in as an assumption in here that we'll have to buy bond insurance to buy that rating up to a AA, which again would get you your lowest interest cost. But all these things, when you decide we're going to go forward with this project and now we have a timetable, we'll go back to bond counsel. There was a timetable about a year ago. We'll have bond counsel revise that to dovetail up to what BMW needs when that GMP comes, so that when GMP comes, we sell down the bonds, market the bonds, because from the time that they give us that final number, we'll need to market it for about a week, then it'll sell the next week, and it'll take a couple weeks for the attorneys to close it and actually deliver money. So it's a month between the time they give us the final price and we have any cash in hand. But that's typically kind of how we go through the process, and I believe those are all the things that we really talked about in your plan of finance and how it works, and that you actually have a viable plan of finance at this point.
Thanks, Jeff. So we'll go to the next slide, and just to emphasize again, just the process again. Preliminary approvals tonight with the right to purchase the land, but really, realistically, it's to allow us to continue forward in confidence that we're going to bring back a GMP at or below the numbers where we're at tonight. So this just kind of lays out that process. Ultimately, sometime in December, we would bid this project out and then present the GMP and work with Jeff and the bond council to finalize the funding of this project. So next slide just talks about the next steps. Obviously, tonight's approval of the budget and the land purchase, and then the process that we've talked about. So that's the gist of our presentation, and we can answer any questions, or if you have others in line to, or Tony, if you have anything to add to that before we go into that step. But
Anything to add? I just want you to reiterate, I know a lot of people here, when they hear backed by property taxes, they automatically, okay. Sorry about that. Jeff, I just want you to kind of explain a little bit, and I understand what you're saying, but when they talk about backed by property taxes, people automatically think their property taxes are going to go up. But as you were saying, this, I mean, can you explain that just a little bit more to make sure, to alleviate everybody's fears?
Thank you. Yeah, in the process of going through the bond financing and the actual bond ratings and the costs of insurance, the higher you can get your bond rating, the lower your interest costs are going to be. In the markets, property tax is always seen as your best security. So when you get ratings, sometimes between property tax and income tax, there won't be a difference, but typically there's a one-step difference. So if you were going to rate at a AA minus as property tax, you might only rate as an A plus on income tax. Therefore, you would potentially pay higher interest costs throughout this 20-year period for the repayment on those. So the convention to get you the lowest interest cost is to, at all times if possible, utilize the property tax as the final backstop. But again, that doesn't force you to use property tax. Your intention, since you passed the local income taxes years ago, was never to use property tax. We don't envision that we're going to use property tax. And that goes through another set of scrutiny with bond counsel, is that we have shown them mathematically that if we incur these debts and we impose the income tax rates that we've talked about that are consistent with today's, we have every reasonable expectation that you will make those payments with income tax and not property tax. And bond counsel has agreed that showing them that, they would allow you to go through the income tax procedures for approval, which are different than the property tax procedures for approval. But There is no indication, there's no reason to believe, and there is no intention to put these on the property tax rolls at this point.
Thank you. I also want to point out that prior to recent legislation about the local income tax, this was not, we didn't have an option on how to pay this, because now that we have the flexibility of the lit tax and a little bit more control, it's caused us to be able to do this without imposing extra taxes, and so I think, we're at a good point here. Let's see, Tony, do you have anything? You're next on the agenda. Do you have anything? Okay. All right, we're going to go on to public comment and questions. Has everybody that wants to speak, have they signed in? There's a sign-in sheet if you want to go sign. Anybody that wants to can go ahead and sign in right now. Do you want to talk, Anton?
So a couple quick questions, some technical financial questions for you. So the cost of the land for the report is a little higher than what we talked about a month or two back. Can you explain why that is? Is it because the acreage was slightly different, or what caused that to be about $100,000 more in cost?
Yeah, I believe it was all about the acreage.
So the acreage,
Yep.
what is the exact acreage of this parcel then that we're looking to?
18.003.
Yeah.
All right, so 18.00, the battery's not working. So 18.003 acres is the actual count, because we talked about a 17-acre number before.
Yeah.
So that makes up the difference. And then does that include the cost of the survey or any other buyer-related costs that we're responsible for?
I believe all of that's in that number.
Okay. That also includes real estate commission and cost. So it's the 90,000 per acre. Okay. So we're not talking 1.6. We're talking what number? That's the number I'm looking for. So if you figure in the real estate commission, any survey costs or other costs that are involved in making the land purchase, what would that total dollar amount be?
The survey cost, we already have, we have those numbers within our due diligence line item. Those things have been completed. In terms of realtor fees, I'm not aware of that. That's not my, it's not my avenue.
Sure.
So,
So there are survey costs. What are those costs? What's the total on that part?
on the due diligence side, we had, just under 80,000 between all of the testing, survey, geotech, environmental.
And to be fair, no matter what property you look at, you're going to have costs relating to that. So there's that part. And then the commission, and maybe Tilden can confirm this, what is the additional cost for the transaction besides the per acre cost?
Per acre, as far as the per acre, of course, it's $90,000, and what other expense did you?
We can't hear in the back.
What other expense?
Let's see if this works.
Numbers did
Is
you
it the
name?
battery that?
Those commissions.
Commission was 2%.
All right, so to repeat, commission is 2% of the 1.6. Okay.
Yeah, and that 2% amounted to $32,405.40. That's 2% of 1.620270, $32,405.40.
All right, and the reason why I'm asking that is just so we all understand in the room exactly what our actual cost is for the land purchase. And it's $1,652,675,000 if I figure 2% on the $90,000 per acre. So just to give you a dollar amount there. There was some question earlier about the status of the deed and there being some cleanup needed to make sure that's prepared and ready for our transaction. So did that all get sorted out?
Yes, Mary, that's kind of a question for you. To your knowledge, everything's been straightened out deed-wise, everything's clear, ready to go.
Yes, I'll have the deed tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, everything's been straightened out, survey, everything's online, absolutely.
All right, that was my preliminary question, so thank you.
You want me to have? Okay, wait just a minute. All right. Okay, I want before, yes.
Can we have Mary and then explain the road, that has been the issue.
Okay.
And where we're
Yes,
at.
absolutely.
Just so everything is out there.
Okay, so give me some history. I've done a 100-year search on this property. And when you go back to 1944, when Tuckers got the property, they got the east part of the Section 19. That drive that's running on the west side is actually 55 feet wide. That was divided with 33 feet going to Winters at the time, and Winters owns that now, 33 feet. And then the other 22 feet is owned by Tucker. They did perpetual easements back and forth with each other to allow them to use the full 55 feet there with the driveway. So we have all the documentation for that. And there's no doubt in my mind that it's okay.
Is that just grandfathered in, or?
With it being perpetual, yes, it is transferable property. And the property's never left the hands of the Tuckers. It's still all in their hands. It's just been overholstered for the daughters.
I have another question.
Yes.
Hypothetically, what would happen if Winders decided to sell their property and the new owners did not agree with that?
With the way the easements wrote up, they would have to abide by that easement, whoever buys it.
Who's responsible for road maintenance?
There is no agreement.
So if the quarry is open behind it and the trucks are working on it every day, who eats the cost of maintaining the road?
That I cannot tell you.
Any other preliminary? Okay.
I just want to see you pass the mic back and forth. One other thing we talked about was the placement of the building on this property. We had a bit of debate at our last council meeting about whether it's in the front of the property or whether it's in the back of the property and how that affects the value and possible sell-off. I'm seeing in the diagrams that the initial placement is in the front. So can anybody comment about that decision, if that's final, or if we still are entertaining perhaps looking at building something further back on the property and then recouping some of the cost by selling off the front part? Who can
That would
comment
be-
about that?
Would that be?
The location, I mean, is, at this point, it's still flexible. There's some due diligence that needs to occur, I think, on how much does it cost to run utilities, farther back off the highway. So there's a cost in that if you push the building farther back. There could be, if we have the drive off of the highway, like we show the second entrance, that drive would have to pass through, or pass through maybe sublots if they're in the front. So, I mean, there's just some discussion that has to happen that way. Now, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anything's been decided exactly where it's going.
There's nothing with the site work that says for no reason you couldn't put it in the back. There's nothing on the backside showing this does not work.
No, I don't think there's any
Surveys
reason,
and
I don't think there's any reason it couldn't go farther back. It's just, right now, we've placed it in the front, because that's probably the least expensive place
option.
to put it now.
You commissioners have any, you guys have the ultimate decision on where that plays. What's the thoughts?
Yeah, we're gonna study that. There's nothing set in stone about that yet. Commissioner's gonna meet with the sheriff, chief, and jail commander along with the council too, and see what's the best option for us future-wise. But nothing is set in stone, Joe, at this time, that it has to be up front. It could be moved to the back, to the other side, stuff like that, but those will be decisions that we'll probably make within the next 90 days.
Sheriff White, you had a concern, didn't you, of if both accesses to the jail was on that one road and something, I mean, do you want to elaborate on that?
I just believe if there was something that occurred that blocked the entrance to just the Quarry Road, and that's where our only entrances were, we didn't have one to the highway, we don't have a way to get out of the department. We can't respond to an incident if something occurred right there at the end of the road. Let's say it was a fatal crash right there in that intersection. The highway shut down for hours, and you can't mess up the evidence. The crash is going to have evidence on the road that you can't interfere with, that you would have to preserve. That would be a concern of mine. The only other concern would be the further back we put it. In the future, if we ever had to build an additional pod, we're running out of space. And then we would be back here at square one looking to find another new property where we can place this, because it would have to go on the backside of the other pod to have a line of sight from booking to pod to the other pod. We would want that line of sight. And that's why this jail is designed the way it is for actual eyes on what we need to see, not relying on just cameras like we do now that fail, and then we have no vision of the inmates, and that's where bad things happen. That's just a concern. Can it be rectified? I don't know. That's these experts, and they're the ones that make designs. It's out of my wheelhouse.
Thank you. Yes.
We also need to make sure, because currently that road, portion of it, is in the county tax sale. So we've got to make sure that the taxes, or if it goes up for sale, it's going to go to whoever. So I'm relying on Mary's comment that the easement goes with whoever owns it, but it's not a large amount. I would suggest the county pay it if the property owner doesn't. It's not, but it's part of the process. We would hate to lose the access.
Access to that road.
Switch over and add another level to pay for.
That's a far cry from another level of paperwork.
So I think this is a design question, but assuming for the moment that we put it in the back as opposed to the front, is there no way to take that road over, and then is it getting us too close to the input on Walmart? If we moved it to the far, would be the south end of the property?
Well, if you move the building straight back.
Right.
On the west side of the property, then you could take that drive where it enters now and just run it, bisect the
Right, but
property.
rather than bisect what could potentially be an expensive piece of property, could we go south toward Walmart? and come out the edge of the property and hit the highway.
There's a distance that the entrances have to be apart.
Right, so that's why I'm
And
asking.
I haven't really
Freedom.
studied that to
Yeah.
know exactly where our window is, but there is a window between the road to the quarry and Walmart and the Y, I suppose, where that entrance can be. So I don't exactly know right now.
Sheriff White, question for you. You were talking about line of sight, some design elements, making it safer for jail staff, good for monitoring inmates, et cetera. That led me to think about an earlier discussion that was had about staffing of the jail and what impact a new project would have on those costs. Do you anticipate needing additional staff to operate this new jail design? And is that cost worked into these figures? Because that would be a committed amount that would cost additional money if it's not already in these figures.
I'm not sure whether it's in the figures or not. It would require more staffing. We would need 5 additional jail officers because you would have to have one in booking. There's a control center that controls every door inside the facility and has eyes on inmates. But no one can leave that. Once you're in that part of the facility, you can't leave. You have to, you're the control of the entire facility. Then you have to have one that can work the floor. You have to have somebody that can respond if there's someone injured or someone having a medical issue. You have to have someone that can do that. So you have to have one booking, one on the floor, and one in control. Right now, we only need 2 because of the way that our jail is designed, so linear design. That one would require 3, so we would need 5 extra positions because days off and stuff like that would require 5 more.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that is because
And that also would mean that they go to 12-hour shifts to be able to only have to hire 5. Otherwise, if we stayed in our current schedule, we would have to have more, but we would have to move to 12-hour shifts for the jail, and then we would only need 5 at that point.
Got it. So you can reorganize, make it a little more efficient on shifts
Correct.
to minimize the impact of additional staff. And the reason why I asked that question is because, and I did the math on this a month or so back, it's $73,000 per year for each full-time jailer. That includes benefits, that includes retirement, all those costs, holiday pay. So if you're looking at adding 5 more due to this particular project, that's $365,000 a year more money on top of all these cost estimates that we're looking at. And I just want to make sure we're very clear because that's not printed in any of these documents, so.
With that being said, for the last 10 years, we've known that. We do not have the jail staffing that is required according to the jail staffing survey that we had as a county done. We have been told for many years we are understaffed and we are required to have more, and we have failed to do that for a long time.
So you're thinking like a catch-up, there's a catch-up
We
component
are
to
trying to
that
catch up,
cost.
yes. We've done this for 10 years and haven't done a thing about it at this point.
Because I think in the past, at least I was under the impression that you anticipated no change of staffing need, but you were probably answering that in terms of what we needed to have and getting to that spot. Is that correct?
Getting to what we currently need to have.
Okay.
To the survey. yes.
And either way, if we're currently paying X for this level of staff we have now, and then we are going to catch up or we are going to need to put money towards staff, we still need to make sure we've identified that cost in these estimates because that may affect decisions and what we do with the building and that kind of thing. So just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that cost.
Anyone else have any, before we go on to public comment? I do want to ask, Denise, I see your name on here. Did you put that on before we talked or?
Yes, I did. I did on before.
Okay, so if I ask your questions here and we answer them, then you're good with that? Okay. Denise was so kind to email us some of her questions, and I'm going to go through a few of them. And this possibly will answer maybe some of the ones that, people are intending to ask. So, and if I miss some, Denise, then, some of these are, I'm going to defer. Your first one was a question for Sam and Dave on whether they are planning on staying or leaving and, or stepping down. And your concern for if they did this, how it would affect the project. Is that correct? I'm going to defer to you guys on that one.
I'd like to know where you heard that. Did you get that off of Facebook, or did you hear me say that?
It's just a simple yes or no answer. Are you going to stay or
No,
are you going to
this
step down?
Jill means nothing to do with me stepping down.
Are you going to step down or are you
Nope,
going to stay?
I got 2.5 years.
Are you going to stay till the end of your term?
Yep, unless I die. I can't help that.
Yeah, I understand your concerns, and I appreciate your comments, Denise. My life, my personal life is my life, nobody else's. And I prayed about this for a long time, whether I'm gonna stay, or gonna retire at the end of the year. And I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of close people, some on the council and other commissioners. Like I say, I prayed about it. No, I'm going to stay. I've got 2.5 years in this. I'm not going to point the gentleman out that's in the room tonight. I was elected by the taxpayers to do a job. And I'll be honest with you, I said this twice in 2 commissioners' meetings, that if this job come between me and God and my family, it's time for me to go. And it has. But I also prayed about it, and I thought, I'm not a very good commissioner, I guess, in some points, but you could get a whole lot worse than me. So I'm going to stay for my 2.5 years and fill my commitment.
Thank you both for answering that. Your second question was, you were wondering why the county and the sellers used the same realtor. I'm not a commissioner. I personally probably wouldn't have done that, but that being said, I've also been told by several people that have been in that position before that is common. It's common to use the same realtor.
I just want to let you know that any sales over $250,000 is typically 4%. That's the same culture. 4%.
Okay, I'll charge you 4%.
Anyway,
Molly, as far as that goes, and like I said, I can comment, I gotta be careful, because actually my agency agreement, my contract law connects me to the commissioners. So I gotta be real careful. I've been really slaughtered recently on social media, which is a very poor thing to be dug through as far as that goes. I can attest to everything I do, and I apologize about striking out just then, because I tell you, everything's down, there's nothing been hid, nothing at all. Now, if you want me to answer these questions, and she kept trying to call them, this is not between me and her, this is between me and you guys. I don't want anything left undone. I can assure you that whatsoever. But I can also assure you that if there was another commissioner or another agent brought in here, it would have cost more commission than what I charge. Now, you can turn that any way upside down you want to. You bring another agent in, they will charge more than I do, probably double over the whole transaction. So if you're talking about saving money, I mean, it's ridiculous. As far as how we handled everything was right down the line. From the first time we brought it to the commissioners, to the council, to the voting to come back, all that. I'll answer any of those questions at all with the commissioners and your guys' permission, okay? But to think you're going to save commission by bringing in another agent, that is crazy. It don't happen like that.
Can I clarify that? I'm not talking about commission, I'm talking about why do we have you representing both sides? You do not, it's like having the same divorce attorney. We need to have our own real estate agent, period. If you're not concerned about it, let's get our agent in that represents us and let him handle the sellers. I'm highly uncomfortable with him being here, and the fact that you guys are just now turning in your declarations of conflict in the last week. This has been going on for a long time, and it's not okay, and you have avoided me like a plague.
Okay, we've got to have, I mean, Denise, if you want to talk, I can just stop right now.
I just want to make it clear that this isn't about commission. It has nothing to do with commission. The 4% is the number of home sales where people use the same realtor as the seller in deals over $250,000. You're saying that's common? Well, it's only 4%. So that's not common.
I'm talking about like with government entities, and I mean, this is what I've been told by people that, I mean, different people that have been through this before, that with government entities, it's very common to have one realtor for both buyers and sellers. So that's just, you know, like I said, this is new. This part is new to me. You know, personally, we've bought and sold land, but this is a total different game when it comes to government entities and buying land. So, and I understand that. That being said, we are all committed, and you know, I know Tilden is committed as well to, you know, having the best process, and I mean, in your shoes, you're not going to do something to jeopardize your reputation. So, but I want to go on a little bit to, you were talking about also it being assessed at, and let me go back to where I was. Okay, you were concerned about it being assessed at $2,400 per acre. That is agricultural, and this, in my opinion, this piece of land and where it sits, I mean, it was zoned agricultural, has been for years, but it is almost within the town limits. It is not, I mean, you look at it and it is between Walmart and it's between the Y. The fact that it was not within Spencer city limits is kind of surprising to me, the way that is, but it's not, it may be assessed as agricultural land, but it was slated, you know, as, in my opinion, is for commercial property. It's prime real estate. It's not going, one thing I also, that's a concern with everybody's afraid that it selling for that amount per acre, 90,000 per acre, if that's going to affect your assessment and your property taxes. I have already talked to our assessor. He says absolutely not. He said you have to compare apples to apples, and we have no institutionally zoned property in the county, and so that is not going to affect anybody's assessed values for their property. So I've talked directly to the assessor, and he's assured us of that. So on to the, let's see, I think that was, as far as the conflict of interest, they have been filed. They've been filed with the state. All of that's in line. And I will say that even though Verl's conflict of interest has been filed with the state, he will abstain from voting on this particular, on the land. So we want, like I said, we want to make sure that this is above board, even though that legally he might be able to vote, where he is going to abstain. So we want to, we do not want to even have the appearance of doing something that's not correct. Let's see.
Polly, can I comment on that?
Yes.
Slide her on So with Verbal's, let's backtrack 1 second to the jail committee meeting. We'll have to talk about jail committee meetings. When this was all brought up, we were in a meeting December 23rd, and in that meeting, we were talking about the property that we were using for the property swap, the quarry. And Sam was in that meeting, Polly was in that meeting, Anton was on the phone, Dustin was in that meeting. And I brought it up, I said, obviously, you know, there's a lot of new councilmen and commissioners that have taken office since that deal was made. I said, previous commissioners may have made a few choices on other items that we weren't all 100% in love with. I said, are we in love with this piece of ground? Is this the all-in, absolutely home run we like? Not everybody, but a lot of people in that room said, hey, you're kind of right, you know, let's look around a little bit. It'd be ideal if we could actually get that field in front of it next to Walmart. Polly's comment was, Park Riders own that, and that'll never be sold.
Yeah, and I did not think that they would sell.
And Sam says, well, we don't know until we ask. You guys recall all this, right? And then from there, it was, I've been told Park Riders, when they talk about that kind of property, there's 2 or 3 people in their life in their life that they trust to handle any kind of thing like that. I believe Sam was told no, and Tilden is kind of the guy that it's a close family there and can broker that kind of deal. So then, you know, Verl has done his conflict of interest, but from that meeting, I've had to write a conflict of interest as well, which is absolutely crazy, but we did it. December 23rd, Dustin Fry was in that meeting. Him and I realized that we are a distant family. I filed a conflict of interest, so I spoke with some other council members. I will be able to vote on a land purchase, yes or no, but I will not be able to vote for approval of moving forward or not with the project. So that's out there. It was the first time him and I met, it was December 23rd, but it's out there. And with his last name and my last name, it was a matter of time before somebody seen it, so that's it. We're sorry.
I think you said, what, second cousins and and you didn't even know it until like right before the fair, so, yeah.
If I can add to that too. So, yes, they are related. I'm the one that called Dustin, no one else. He has a specific thing that he does in his construction that's called a BOT construction. I wanted to learn what that was, and I asked his company to come down and educate me in my office. First time I ever met him, I did not know him, he did not know me, but he was kind enough to come down and educate me on what a BOT was. He can tell you, and his team can tell you, our first meeting in my office, I said, look, I have all the friends I'm looking for. I don't need any more friends. I want the best deal you can give my county. If you can't adhere to that, don't promise me you'll take me hunting or anything else that I love to do. If you can't do that, then this conversation is over. And the line was in the sand, and they were, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that. So he's only here, not because of him, but because I asked him to come down and educate me so that I could share that with the council. That is it.
So Joe, you made a statement that you will not be voting on moving forward with.
I've got to abstain.
Okay, there's nothing that warrants that. You understand there's nothing that warrants you from having to abstain, nothing at all.
I do understand that, and I know, you know, Dustin and I both, we met on December 23rd, had a small conversation, haven't spoke since then. But perception can kill you out there. Tilden's been drugged through it.
Yes, he has.
And I think for what's best for me and my family, it's best that if I don't.
I just want you to know that nothing warrants you that you have to abstain.
But we appreciate you going, even though it's nothing warrants that, we appreciate the fact that you're wanting to make sure.
Seeing we have our county attorney here present, I have a question. Is there anything that we're doing in a gray area? I mean, anything that could be challenged down the road?
No, I mean, the issue that's been raised is this issue of conflict of interest, but there's, state law permits this vote and permits both Burl and Joe to vote. But if they choose to abstain, that's up to them.
But there's no problem with the realtor. That's what I'm
No.
asking.
No, because there's a state statute that allows a realtor to represent both sides in a transaction. That's the law in Indiana, and a lot of other states as well.
So there's nothing else there that we are going to look at tonight that could be in a gray area that somebody could come back later and say, why didn't y'all talk about this?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, there's also been a concern about IC code 36-7-14-19. I looked at it, Tony's looked at it. It has to do with redevelopment. It's not applicable here. And so we've laid that to rest. And I believe you've also asked some others in your firm as well. Right.
I have.
Also, let's see, it was asked what will the estimated, you've got monthly, but it will be an annual payment. And that wasn't covered yet, was it, Jeff?
Yes.
Or did you cover that?
The payments will be semi-annual. And
Okay,
they
semi-annual,
typically line
okay.
up with when you get your property tax receipts, so July, January. We anticipate, based on what we've looked at, $2,605,000 per year, so roughly half of that per half.
Okay.
Did you mean to say property tax? Yeah, that's exactly.
It aligns with the same timing as property tax because that's the underlying security. Your income taxes you receive monthly, which is what you will make your payments, but you will only make your payments every half of a year because that is how all municipal bonds are typically sold because most bonds are typically property tax backed and they have that 2 collection cycle, 2 payment cycle.
So we're not going to property tax.
But these are not
No.
going to be repaid with property tax.
These are not going to be repaid by property taxes. It is lit tax only. And the way that it is designed, as far as we can see into the future, even the lit tax is not going to be increased. So I want to alleviate those fears. Let's see. It is, let's see, another question that's been asked. Your question was if the payment relies heavily on local income tax, when the rate changes in 2029, the rate will not change in 2029. That's when the new lit structure will come into effect. That's when county council, when the prior lit structure in years past, when we raised the jail lit tax, the town of Spencer and the town of Gosport automatically got a portion of that. The town of Spencer, I think it started out at 900,000, now it's up to what, 1.1 million? They get every year from our lit tax, and they did not ask for it. They did not, need it. They just got it because, automatically got that because of the way the past lit structure was. The way this new lit structure is, the county council, we will have control of how that money is actually going to be spent. There's a lot of things that go into that. I know a lot of people are thinking that because of that the towns will not be taken care of. That's not going to be the case at all. It's gonna be in conjunction with the towns. We're going to make sure all needs are met, but it gives us flexibility to actually use that money to go to what it was intended for in the first place, and that was for the jail. Let's see, pardon? Yeah. Pardon? Yeah. It's been asked if, why the county did not have a counteroffer. Do you want to address that, Tilden?
Yes, I would like to address that, because originally,
You want?
originally when I approached my sellers, as far as that goes, they had no idea what the property was worth any way, shape, or form. So I had to do a lot of due diligence on my side, like you was when you're selling anything. That's my business, and it was very important to get in there and say exactly what it would be in order to sell that chunk of ground. If that piece of ground was sold on a smaller piece, like an acre or 2 acres or something like that, it would be considerably higher than what we actually come down to. It'd take a lot of studying to figure out what it would be, because we don't have anything like that around here, or haven't had anything around here like that. So I put on the numbers, like I said, from the research that I did, and came up with that numbers, and then that's what I approached the commissioners on originally. Now, how this happens is, once I do my homework, then I know legally they have to have 2 independent appraisers on it also, appraisals on that ground. So let's say, for example, I put it as $90,000 an acre, which boy, if I take a beating on that. But anyway, $90,000 an acre is actually what I put on it. I thought that was a fair price since it was that large a number of acres, okay? So anyway, so we waited, and they actually hired 2 very reputable companies, First Appraisal Group, Inc., and Owen Appraisal, Inc., completely separate to see what that was. It'd take a few weeks to get that back. In the meantime, I was hoping I'd done my homework right, and when it come back in, First Appraisal Group, that we got back in mid-June, one was $1,650,000. The other appraisal was $1,800,000. So in average between those two, $1,725,000 for that acreage. Okay, I've got it down as $90,000 an acre. When that information come back in, that average per appraisal on those independent commercial appraisals like they always do, it come back at $95,817. So what we're actually doing is, if it had come back at $80,000, I would have had to go back to my clients and say, you know, I messed up somewhere. Here's what it's more like per acre. And then at that time, we would have decided, would you take $80,000 for it, or would you, do you want to just forget it as far as that goes? It's all enough up front as far as that goes. We knew the independent appraisals had to do that as far as that, and we had to meet. If not, I had to go back to my sellers and adjust, because I'm handling both sides of this transaction. So of course, I'm not cheating anybody, I'm not doing anything. I felt very good because I come up with the $90,000, because that was a fair price considering what it actually was, I thought. And then when those independent appraisals come back, and they come back at $95,817, so here's your choice. Very seldom do you actually have acreage that you go into that it appraises for $5,817 more than what you're paying for it. So again, in this situation, you're actually getting instant equity in this ground because of that. Again, I wasn't doing any side. I want to make sure I was fair to both sides. We figured it. It come out. I estimated at $90,000 since it was so much. If you sold off that front 3 acres, you could have got a lot more than that per acre. There's no doubt about that. But when those independent appraisals come in that I had no control over what that amounted to, it just showed that I was correct. Matter of fact, it's a little bit less than what they showed as far as that goes. So again, in this situation, I'm protecting both sides, I'm making sure the numbers are all right, and if anything had hiccuped on that side to where it would have been less than 90,000, we wouldn't have forced it through on the county. That's not fair to anybody. I would have had to go back to my sellers and say, I understand, if we want to sell that much acreage, they're interested, but we have to get it closer to the appraisal. In this situation, the county's ended up with over $5,000 an acre more equity due to independent appraisers.
Who chose the independent appraiser?
Commissioners.
I'm curious.
And that's a good question, I'll be honest with you. I hate that too. I hate social media. I don't do it. I've got enough screenshots right now, I can just throw a rock through a mirror. But I'm telling you what, both independent appraisals are very, very reputable. I have never worked directly with either one of those appraisal companies and had them do an appraisal for me. Never have I worked with those. Those are independent, I had nothing about it, so I didn't pay them nothing on the table or anything like that. Again, it was all done on the up and up.
Who in the county decided that you should represent the county as the buyer's agent?
Let's,
I've talked to numerous people, and I don't hear anyone that supports that.
excuse me,
Yeah.
we have to keep this in order, please. Did you sign?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, I promise you will get your opportunity. I want to go through a little bit more. Denise has about 24, and we're going to try to keep this as quickly as possible so that everybody that wants to ask questions will get an opportunity. I'm going to try to go through this a little bit quicker. There was a concern about Peters Franklin LTD not having a current contract signed. I don't think that, I know we do now, but it's not, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, our contracts, typically when we do consulting, and we've done consulting for you for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years maybe. Those original contracts, when we develop the fiscal plans and so forth, they have a clause in them that says, basically, I'll do whatever it is you ask me to do within our wheelhouse at our normal hourly rates and out-of-pocket expenses. And we've probably got 35 or 40 clients statewide, and all those read the same. So when you come to me periodically over these last couple of years and said, hey, we want to raise the income tax for public access point lit, something like that, or we want you to study something. We just do that and we go on. Then when you undertake projects like this, we send you a separate engagement that says, okay, for this particular transaction, these are the functions that we'll fulfill for you, and this will be the cost of that contract. So before we get to the contract for the project, we have an ongoing project or an ongoing contract with you and have had for as many years as we've been involved.
Thank you for clearing that up. On to, let's see, point about the sewer. Denise, you quoted that as 4 million. It's never been 4 million. It's always been 2. That the town has said that would cost us, the sewer expansion. I would say that would be one of the next steps in the project, is to have a written agreement with the town. That's what I'm assuming, and that would be something that I would assume that the commissioners would enter into.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, let's see. There was question why the county has not moved to appraise or sell any of our 30 currently owned parcels. I personally am in favor of that, but that, once again, is a commissioner's thing. Do you want to speak on that, Sam?
Absolutely. Assuming, and I don't like to assume anything, but if this passes tonight at the next Board of Commissioners meeting, I'll have brought up, or will bring up, to get the current jail and storage units appraised to see what value that is. that would be the first piece of property that I believe, and I'm just talking to myself, I know the other two commissioners are here and they'll have input on this probably at next week's meeting. See what that appraises for. And whatever, you know, if we can find a buyer for that, which no doubt we think we can, that money will go to the jail project, to help pay down the jail project. We do have other property that we're looking at, but we're not going to get surveys and appraisals done until we know that this project is going to be moving forward.
Thank you. Pardon? Norm, oh.
Commissioner Warren.
I don't have anything. I was thinking about what he was saying there.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see. There was a question on, about the insurance on the old jail. I don't know if you've talked to John Parmalee, but I would assume that as long as we're moving forward with this project, the old jail would be insured until the completion, of course.
Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I heard last time we had this discussion with him. We were good for a year, and then if we wanted to extend it further, we would have to ask them, and the price would probably go up significantly to cover us in the gap between when we can move into the new facility, when and if we get that done. So that was my understanding. Now,
That's correct. You're absolutely correct. Mark.
Okay.
That's exactly what he said. The premium would probably be higher for us in that gap. Correct, Commissioner Risk?
That's correct.
Okay. Also, there's been a question, will the inmates be housed at another facility? There's no reason for that. The existing facility will still be in operation, it will still be insured. So the inmates would stay there until the new facility was completed. Let's see. I think we've addressed the survey concerns. We've, of course, on the updated numbers, we've got the absolute current numbers up there, and I believe that's pretty close to the only other question that was on here is about holding your invoices, Tony, and you want to?
Oh, hold it, yeah. Typically for these projects, the law firm will hold us invoices until the sale of the bonds is complete. I know early on, folks wanted to keep an eye on the expenses, so I've just forwarded those bills on as we accumulate them, but we're not going to ask that they be paid until we're much further down the project.
Thank you. All right, I think we're at the end of that. Our first person that has signed up is Teddy Latterty. Terry, I'm sorry. I know who you are, I just can't read your writing.
Most of my questions have already been answered, but I just want to give credit to Sam and Mr. Risk for getting us to where we're at, because it was just sitting idle. Different people in here were here for during those 8 to 10 years that this has been discussed. Nothing happened. But anyway, I'm appreciative of that. We need to get moving on because the price just keeps getting crazy. I mean, it is just crazy. So there you go. Thank you very much for the decisions you got to make.
Do you want to, since
Sure.
you've got that here, you can have that.
Let's go, everybody.
Yeah.
Solid.
So that was such a thorn.
Now.
I just want to
you guys be extremely careful when you use the property tax as a backup. I do mortgages for a living in this county, and this is a very poor county, and people are living paycheck to paycheck, and if you start raising their property taxes with the insurance costs that are going up, and they're gonna lose their homes. And I have a very deep concern about this. Now, do I think we need a jail? Absolutely, we do. Am I crazy about buying land to do that? Not really, when we have other, the current jail property that might be able to be, grazed and legally put there.
Can I address that on the current jail? The current jail is sinking because of that property, and my understanding is that was built on a sinkhole. It's also not big enough for this current design.
Up, though, instead of going out.
This is a, go ahead and you want to address that?
We never like to go up. We have mezzanines where the inmates walk up, but you never want to have a multi-story, I'm not saying never. It's not the first choice, because you don't want to put an inmate in an elevator with staff. It's just not good design.
Also, the amount of land that is needed for our design is what? What's the acreage?
We were like a little over 6 acres at least.
And the current jail.
You have to have detention basins and things like that.
The current jail property, I believe, with the storage units is 4 acres, is that right? So there's not enough acreage there.
But I thought there was also maybe a couple of properties that could be picked up as well around there.
But I don't think you want to build a $38 million project on sinking land.
Oh, so, no, you wouldn't, but then how are we gonna sell that property? If it's a single. I'm just asking the question, because this is what I do for a living. I get appraisals in every day, and if you've got a property with a sinkhole, and you're gonna try to sell it, how's that gonna happen?
How are we gonna pay for it? Yeah, good question. Taxpayer.
Tom?
Yes.
First of all, from my understanding, and this is some land acquisition tonight, right? This isn't on the plan.
Right.
So I won't hit on that much. Other than that, there's a question I've asked a number of times and not been given an answer to. Not 2 years ago, said the same thing with the same two groups together in a joint session where it was agreed upon that $25 million was the maximum to be spent, including everything. How are we at, and it's probably over 40 million, let's get real. How are we there? Somebody answer that to me.
I can answer that, because back then, we did not have the new lit structure. So we did not have the ability to even think about going over that amount. And we also have an up-to-date design. We have rising construction costs. There's a multitude of factors that have gone into play with that.
That's not legitimate excuses. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you spend it, Polly.
No, I understand. I understand. And that doesn't mean...
So you wonder why people out here are questioning everything. You do. It's because of things like that. Start at 25. It was a joint session. Realize some of you weren't on it. I understand that. But I've been on boards, and you have to live with the decision by the prior board. Okay? And that was decided at $25 million. Again, we are going to be over 40 million. And even if you use the escalation of 6%, that's only 3 million more. That's 28. I'll give you that. I understand this, but if anybody does, I do. You know, going back to the land acquisition, you know, I understand the numbers, but that's a lot of money, people, for a piece of property. And plus, there's all this shadows around it that have occurred. I'm not pointing the finger at one person or another person or whatever, but it just, I gotta say, it walks like a skunk, smells like a skunk, looks like a skunk, it's a skunk. And I think that's what people in the public are upset about, is, you know, that fact, that it's in the shadows, the whole thing has been in the shadows. And I understand the rumor mills, I try not to do that, try to get my facts straight, don't always, I mean, I'm a human being. But to finish, because I'm letting other people talk, I got property in northern Owen County, I'll sell you to $80,000 an acre tonight. Anybody else have any?
Yeah.
There you go.
Is it that close to the town of Spencer? Because it will be.
Well, you said you looked everywhere earlier.
Yeah.
You said you looked everywhere. It doesn't matter, it's in the county.
Yeah, but when I said we've looked everywhere, it's, you have to have sewer and infrastructure, and that is where we've had.
I understand that, Polly. I totally understand that.
So, I mean,
And I would say some of these people have that.
well, it would have been,
Well, it was built, you gotta build it to it now. So does it make a difference?
We gotta have a sewer to go to.
Well, you're gonna put 2 million to go to this one.
What are we gonna do if we're in Cataract? Bring it down here.
It's not cataract, it's a pole. It's not in cataract. Yeah. Well, that's just being facetious.
but that's where we have come into problems, is finding land that is suitable for that kind of, I mean, that much acres with the infrastructure. Because, I mean,
And I understand that. I own property. I understand this. I've been in this for a long time. But that number is incredibly high. And you said it, they've been assessed as an agriculture all these years. They're looking at bandits, which is fine. I mean, if somebody offered me, I'd be sure, there you go. But they haven't been taxed as on that amount for that property. And now we're gonna give that amount to them?
Tom, you mentioned that we have to be held to what decisions were made by other boards, and you're true. There's been a lot of decisions previously made that we're being held to that are terrible too. And one thing that those previous boards never did is pull the trigger on jail. When they could
Right.
afford it.
Which has cost us a lot of money.
right.
And I don't disagree with that.
We went through 2 more sets of commissioners that never approved it, never got
Well,
it done.
it's been ongoing since 2013. Think of what we could have built it in 2013.
It's been going on for a while, and I know that too.
And
I totally,
and I understand
but
that.
the fear is, that you're sitting here saying it's okay if we change from $25 million, but you're also telling me you're not anticipating a tax increase, or anticipating this. What if the next people, they don't have to follow that?
Well, and that's always, I
accountable.
mean, yeah, you can say that, and I agree. I agree.
But you can't have people get two.
No, I mean,
You have to.
the next council, the next commissioners that's going to be sitting up here, I mean, you know,
Tom, you
yeah.
talked about property values in Spencer, and of course, everybody's got property they love to sell for $80,000, $90,000. But does anybody else have 18 acres in the town of Spencer? They
Why
don't.
do you need 18 acres?
Why does it have to be in
But,
town?
and I can
You
give you
need
an
6
example.
point what?
Why does it have to be in town?
So,
because of the infrastructure.
Hold on a second.
The YMCA and the
Hold
Walmart.
on one second here. It has to be in town to support the infrastructure, so the large sewer system, your water and your utilities to it. We can't just go put this out in the middle of nowhere and put it on septic.
There's sewer and water
It's gotta
across from
have,
the
can I
corner
talk?
street.
Give me 1 second. Okay. The sewer system has not been ran all the way down to the property behind Baylor Mill with the county. That was originally spoken about. And the cost for that far exceed, we still have the $31 million jail. The other hard costs there with the utilities and everything else will far surpass any other land purchase or infrastructure going all the way out. There's acreage in town, a good example, the barbecue joint there by Rebel Tractor Sales is for sale for $225,000, and that's maybe a half acre. The town of Spencer bought Rebel Tractor Sales, I believe, for $750,000. So it 100% depends on where you're at, is what.
Oh, Joe, I totally understand, I totally get that.
But kudos on them, $2,500
It's just an extraordinary amount of money.
It is, you're
The
right.
barbecue place, that's an asking price, that's not what it's for.
Okay.
What the little tax place just down the road sell for, where the car wash is going. That's a comparison. What someone's asking for sale is a comparison.
I've physically seen appraisals in this town for over $110,000
Okay,
I have
and,
one more thing.
okay, because we're going to have to limit, we were going to limit everybody
You
to
gave her
Denise.
a lot longer.
I was hoping
So
that a
you
lot
can't
of
do
that,
You can't, once you open that door, you can't close it. But anyway, all I want to say is,
I can.
yeah, because you're the queen. So the commissioners can ask for all they want. It's the council that gives them the money. So every bit of this lays at the council's feet. Just remember that when you're voting on things. Okay?
Thanks, Tom.
We know, we're in the council.
we are going
Dora
to.
Brown.
Go ahead.
Door Brown, door, come on out.
Hello. My name's Dora Brown, and I do live in Owen County. I've sat here multitude of times voting on stuff, listening to things. One thing very close that we voted on last year was the UDO. A lot of us know about the UDO. We spent over $80,000 on getting information that wasn't very good. We got a lot of bad information, but we still spent $84,000. They come out of our pockets. And here we're doing this again with this. I do want to say to law enforcement, I appreciate your guys' work. We have law enforcement in my family. I know what this is like. And if it was that easy, they deserve it. They deserve it because they keep us safe. And they need that. But we haven't come up with a good idea. 18 acres, 80 acres, 100 acres. We can't build up on the current facility. But can we buy less and go up? Still going to be in the infrastructure that we're all talking about. We still need to talk about added expenses, the septic, the traffic lights, other roads. We don't want them having an accident going out to rescue somebody's child on a suicide. We don't want that. Their safety is important just as well. We heard about bonds. How many in here absolutely understand bonds? Everybody had that look. What is he talking about? A lot of these people aren't financial people. We take care of our monthly bills. The more information you gave us tonight, the more we want to say no. This should have been done in steps. If the public is going to get involved, do it in steps so that we can understand what is going on. 2013, that's a long time. It's not their fault. Income tax going up? No. Yes. Property taxes, assessments, there's a lot of people in this county that appealed their property taxes. It was outrageous. You're saying it's not gonna be on property taxes? What's the guarantee? You people are gonna be on those seats. What's the guarantee? None. What about the contingencies on work delays? Are there contingencies? Are we gonna be on schedule for this amount of money? I didn't hear anything about contingencies. We heard about cost of labor, cost of expenses. For one, I know what those costs are. But I didn't read anywhere or heard anything about, we're gonna be on time. If we're not on time, do we get a cut on the cost? All kinds of things are gonna come up. And there's no contingency that I heard of if we go through with this thing at all. Do we need a new jail for these people? A new office? Yes. At this cost? No. We have to think of something else.
I
That's
do
all I
want
have to say.
to, okay, thank you. I do want to point out that this, as they've said, this is the first of several public hearings, public meetings. This mainly is to do with the land sale. So, and we are going to have to kind of try to limit at three minutes if we can, so please be concise. Is that?
I know. I got 75 questions, so we're going to keep it. So quickly, thank you all. So I heard 6.4 acres. Is that all in, or was that just the footprint of the jail itself?
That's the site around.
The whole site, okay. So there's 11 acres to the east and a little bit to the north. Thank you for that. Okay, I think I got the answer to my question about estimating design escalation contingency. There's contingency in there. That's good, and that's a contingency versus the design fees. Got that. So who will be so I'm going to take down, here's my biggest concern. I don't want this to be bigger than 38.6, whatever that number was, okay? And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but every number that's been put up there has been larger than the previous number.
Yes.
Okay? So when is this going to stop? When is the building going to stop? Okay. So I'm going to get down a little bit of the plan. What is entailed in the $1.1 million for construction management? And I don't mean, does the construction manager report to Owen County personnel, or does it report to BW Construction, or does it report to Public Audits, or who does it report to? Because we need project management on this project more than we've ever needed before. Will there be an independent civil, mechanical, and industrial engineering firm that will review the detailed proposal? How much will that cost? By the way, the county attorney made a comment that he will submit his bill once the bonding is done, but I don't see it in the beginning budget that we're going to take care of the attorney's fees out of the jail project. Why is there an overlap between QAQC and bidding and GMP preparation? Wouldn't you want to get your QAQC before you open up your bids? And by the way, what does QAQC mean? Does it mean QAQC, or does it mean due diligence, or what's it mean? Will there be a building inspector in this process? Okay. We talked about the lit funds, and this is all my questions. The question about the lit funds. Today, it's at 2.5%. About, what is it, 0.025, part of that is called lit edit, which I expect is gonna go away. But will the funds that were distributed to lit edit be available for economic development or not? That's the question I have. Okay, and then, here's the one. What will the county do if the guaranteed maximum pricing is greater than what we discussed?
Thanks, Jeff. Pardon? So, I mean, I have several questions there. Does any, I mean,
So my key question is construction management. It's my understanding, looking at this from the outside, that Garmong is going to do the construction management, but I could be all wrong. So please enlighten me as to how that's going to work and how the county is going to be kept up to date. Is it your first call to the, I'll give you an example.
yeah, go. Can he answer, answer your question there?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this project is going to be delivered under Indiana Code 523, which is the BOT statute. So the commissioners are who has the contract. They currently have a contract with Elevatus, which is the architecture firm who holds engineering contracts with separate mechanical, electrical, plumbing designers, as well as civil and structural. And then the commissioners have chosen to hire BW as the BOT developer. And our team consists of Garmong, who will be the CM. So the 1.1 million you mentioned is the staffing and effort from Garmong to manage and oversee the construction, the day-to-day construction. They will be watched by BW, and we manage the overall soft cost of the project, and we report to the commissioners, who have a separate agreement with Elevatus, who will be overseeing the construction from the designer's perspective to make sure what we are building meets the design intent and specifications. So there's checks and balances built into all of the contracts that the commissioners have entered into.
Thank you. We're going to take a short break. The, 5-minute break? Sound good? Fine? Okay. So if everybody could be back here at about,
I gotta get up before we better not.
in the budget for local legal counsel fees. And also the amount of lit that currently goes to economic development. When we did your lit analysis for you earlier in the year, you did look at the operational side of your current economic development income tax fund and made sure that that amount was still going into your pot of money to be spent for operational needs before making these debt service payments. And again, as we talked about, your anticipated 2029 income of lit is a couple $100,000 more per year than what is anticipated in the debt service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Murray.
Okay, so I want to bring us kind of back to reality here really quick. If we back out of this property now, we lose all the money we've spent on surveys, appraisals, environmental studies, all that stuff. And we lose the momentum that we have with our current board of commissioners and our current council members, who kudos to them for finally doing something about this project. It should have been done 10 plus years ago. And I know 1.6 is a lot, but we're going to eat that 1.6 at rise of construction costs and inflation if we sit around and continue to wait and argue about which property to build it on. Because you can't please everybody. And I know that $90,000 an acre, some don't agree with that's legit. Well, here's a comparable sale for them. I don't know how many people have seen that real big, beautiful house go up on North Washington Street in Spencer. It's huge. And that was an empty lot that I wanted to buy because it would have doubled the size of my backyard. But imagine my surprise when it's listed for $120,000 for a 6,000 square foot empty lot in Spencer and sold for $90,000. And so, yeah, I think this property that sits right along city limits, right next to utilities, among prominent businesses in Spencer, is undeveloped. That's worth $90,000 an acre probably. And kudos to Mr. Keith for getting it $5,000 less per acre. So we're left with, well, it doesn't look good. Look, I haven't seen anything underhanded in this whole deal. I think you all have been transparent, answered questions. You know what else doesn't look good? Is wasting away thousands of dollars, taxpayer money, every day that we sit and wait to do something about this. That's what doesn't look good to me. So, we can sit and just go back and forth about it, and I don't like 2.5% lit tax. I think it's ridiculous. It's some of the highest in the state, but it's the situation we find ourselves in. And we can sit and blame the state for their ridiculous building codes on these jails. We can blame possible litigation from inmates. For the current jail, we can blame our insurance for threatening to drop us, but we really have no one to blame but ourselves. I mean, shame on us for not getting this done 10 plus years ago, because it would have saved us like $20 million. Now here we are, and we're thinking about kicking the can down the road again. I think we can't afford to kick the can down the road. And if we build this jail on the back and sell the front properties, if that's feasible, if it doesn't cost that much extra, bring the sewer out a couple extra 100 yards, I'd say do it, and let's get some of our money back. Sell the current jail, sell the storage units. I mean, it's not worth nothing. It's worth something, and every dollar that we can put into it is money saved. So, the world's moving quick. We're going to have data centers knocking on our doors soon. We've got clock cameras in the county that may or may not should be here. But we're sitting here talking about this jail, and that's been the conversation for the past 5 to 10 years. So, council members, commissioners, I'm asking y'all, buy this land tonight, and let's start building this jail. We can talk about the cost of the jail and the upcoming steps. This is about the land tonight. Let's get this land bought, let's move forward. Thank you.
Right on time, too, look at that. Alex Johnson, is it Alex? Alan? Come on up.
Okay. No, you stopped it. I'm not a tech guy. All right, full disclosure, so anybody doesn't say anything, I own some property in the west, my brother and I own some property on the west side of Spencer by Wendy's and the Riots, which I had for sale for a long time. So, but it's not about that because,
Hold that. Like a,
okay, it's not about that because I've known for a couple of years that the county wasn't interested in my property. Well, my issue is that my property taxes on that property have skyrocketed. That one parcel went up 3,700%, the other went up 2,000. I now pay $5,000 a year in property taxes on bare land. And I own about 6 acres there. And the problem is I'd love to know what the appraisal, what the taxes are. Basically, 18 acres, if you're saying it's equivalent, they should be paying $15,000 a year in property taxes on this land that you're buying for these people. I'm sure that's probably not the case. So I guess my point is I think, why are we buying 11, 12 extra acres, and you're talking about turning around and selling off? Why don't we just buy what we need up front then? Because the one thing I know is I've had that property for sale a long time. I'm trying to sell it now for under the appraised value. There's not a lot of things that appears coming to Spencer, Indiana right now, a lot of new businesses. There's no way a business was coming to Spencer, Indiana and going to buy 18 acres there for 1.6. That's my guess. They would have that for a really long time. So I don't know why we're spending that much. Why don't we just buy what we need out front then? Instead of selling off, buying, then selling off, and keep people's property taxes and taxes low. I'm not against the jail. I'm not against it. It's hurting. And I know there's a lot of elderly people. I'm retired. I'm kind of on fixed income. There's a lot of elderly people that are on fixed incomes that they're terrified about what's happening with their property taxes. Now you're saying maybe this is not going to affect, but I'm not smart enough. I would understand. He's acting like they're going to back it up with property taxes if there's any kind of default. So maybe I can't afford to have any more property taxes taxed on me. I don't know about other people. I was next to an elderly lady that couldn't figure out she'd lost $100. I could see the fear in her eyes when I paid mine. Because she probably bought her house 30 years ago at a certain price, and now it's been jacked up. It was probably like $30,000, $35,000. You buy a house in Spencer, and now they say it's $200. Well, she didn't make any money off of. I haven't made a nickel off this property. Don't mind that I inherited it. So that's my only point. And the other thing is, just there again, I'm not against anybody. The realtor fee didn't sound as far as a fee. But why didn't the county attorney negotiate the deal? Because my parents sold a lot of property down there, and they did not use realtors. They had an attorney, late John Foods, did all the sales contracts. So why couldn't the county attorney, to save, maybe it wasn't a lot, but to save money, why wouldn't you use a county attorney for the county? And I guess that's all I have to say. I'm not against the jail, I just think, why are we buying so much? That's $1 million extra. If you're buying 11, 12 extra acres, that's $1 million extra.
Do you want to address that? Do you want?
Why are we buying so much?
Do you want to address that, Tilden?
That, as far as buying that many acres, that's what we originally talked about on the commissions. It just gives more flexibility for that site as far as that goes. I mean, when I did that, that's what we decided, on that side. Now, what all they was going to do, the value they get, like I said, they're actually ahead of the schedule anyway on what the product or what the land's worth. We just said that side there, Sam and the commissioners talked about it, and they wanted to know what we would sell that site for. It just gives more options. Will they use a little bit of it? Will they sell some of it? I mean, the sky's the limit there, and the value's there. I mean, there's just no doubt about it.
All right, since I have the microphone, I gotta say a little something. I've never been for selling off any of the property. My personal take on that whole matter is that the county should keep it for the next 100 years, and everything we build should be built right there. And that's what I believe. So, but that's just me. Going on, Mark quickly. Are you Mark?
He said it's.
Well, Mark, all right. Pam, are you up here? Mr. Bud?
Hi, I'm Pam Rogers. I'm going to go really quick. Why aren't the costs for the new jail project spent prior to this new location included in the overall cost of the jail? We've spent a lot of money at prepping at different locations. That's all a part of this jail cost, and that should be reflected in the overall projecting cost of what the jail is costing. When the attorney said there's no gray areas, I respectfully, strongly disagree with that. Yes, there is. The RFPQ issued and adopted by the Board of Commissioners on 10/8/25 stated that the project scope is for 947 West State Road 46, land owned by the commissioners of 9.5 acres. This was a false statement that was made in a legal notice, and that is what people applied for. They filed their RFPQs based upon building on the quarry property, and that limited your scope of people that would actually apply. In the scope, it states that design services are not included, yet the budget shows $1 million approximately for design services by BW Garment. So we have two people that are charging for design services, where the scope says it will include no design services. This new budget shows an additional $1 million from the BW Garment crew for design services. Garment is under contract now under a prior agreement that's not been canceled. Elevatus has a contract absolutely that's in conflict with this proposal. Elevatus, first of all, in their contract, lists that the site is going to be for a $20 million jail, and with their fee that they're assessing, and in the contract it says 6.5%, and in our budget it's saying 5.5%, this contract includes site due diligence, testing, surveys, providing construction estimates. This is double dipping in my opinion, because now we have different entities charging for the same service. Elevatus is under a percentage rate for the total cost, where originally they're talking about a $20 million jail, now we're talking a $38 million jail. They get 5.5% of that. It's hard for me to justify that. There's no affidavit that was filed with the scoping agreement. By state statute, if there's no affidavit that's filed that verifies their verifying process, the scoping agreement may not be put into place, and it's of no consequence until that affidavit is filed with and before the scoping agreement. So yes, there's a gray area. Feasibility study is not applicable to the current proposal. It requires a cost for new alternatives that were not covered in this. Elevatus has submitted invoices for some surveying and testing from the quarry site, and yet today we have within the proposal for the scoping, he mentioned that we're already at $80,000 cost for scoping. And in the budget, it's $80,000 total for both the cost of the scoping and the site testing. So there's a disparity between the numbers. These numbers are not adding up. Who's paying for all of this testing that's been done from the original agreement? That was Elevatus. I do have more to say, but I just want to say I am for the jail. And we do need to look in the future. I'm just asking that we do it right, that we don't have these gray areas, that our attorney does a little more due diligence to make sure that our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted.
Thank you. Responses, questions, anybody? Jerry Reynolds.
Hi folks, Jerry Reynolds, and I'm all for the jail, although I think that it's going to be really expensive. I got a few real quick questions to ask. Dylan, you might be able to answer this one. If I were to try and buy an acre of ground on Highway 46 between Walmart and YMCA, what would that probably cost me? Of this same piece of property?
1 acre.
It's kind of irrelevant what you're saying as far as that goes, Jerry. But for example, let me just go to saying, there's 3 different ones across the road there at the doctor's
A quick number.
Sir?
90,000.
150,000.
150, maybe not 250? Okay.
You said a quick answer.
You might be able to answer a question for me. What do you think they're going to get for the old jail property and the storage? Yeah. You know. I don't think you heard the numbers. Does anybody else know what the old jail and the storage property is going to go for?
I think it's gonna go for north of 850.
Nearly $1 million?
I'd say a million.
Okay, we've got 104 acres down here off of 43. Is that worth 10,000 an acre? How much? 600,000?
8 per acre.
Okay, several different times I've been in here and I've asked if there was any commitment from Spencer to pay $2 million, which would pay out of a different account, for the sewer. So what we have is $2 million sewer reduction, if that were to have been done. We have the county property, which is, say, 600,000. We have the old jail, which is, I think, got 2 total? 2 million? So we got 2, 4, 5, and if this property out in front were to maybe go for close to $1 million, we're talking almost $6 million reduction. Now, nobody here has said anything about making all of these things contingent upon the purchase or the approval of this piece of property. But the only reason it's being sold or bought is the fact that we want to put a jail there, correct? So why are not all of these things included, which would be a $6 million or close potential reduction in that figure? I just don't understand why these things haven't been done beforehand to where that much money would be deducted from the principal, which ask Anton. You take it off the top and it makes it a whole lot easier than paying $50 million over 20 years. That ought to be more than enough questions right there. Thank you.
All right,
Real quick response to that. We have talked about that previously. If you sell any of those assets between the time that you agree to undertake the project and before we issue bonds, we'll throw it into that same cash figure and buy it down and issue a lesser amount of bonds, which would be the preferable thing to do if it happens. However, if you later sell that property, you had talked about you may want to start a fund to call those bonds earlier than the 20-year time period or the 39 payments. In that instance, what you would do is sell that money, put it back, and the bonds should be callable within 10 years. We had talked before about having a call period of 10 years or 8 years. Market right now is dictating more 10 so that you don't pay interest, a higher interest rate in order to get an 8-year call period. So after that 10-year period, you could start to call those bonds in and pay them off, not have those future interest payments or some of them. So you could save interest in that regard. And that's how you had talked about previously what you would do with those assets and bind down the debt.
Hey, Bill. Bill Jimmy? Duties?
He's John.
He's going. We've got, that's good. John, come on in, John.
Where's the mic?
I saw you look through the door.
Don't spill that on my phone.
Hold on. We're going to give you an extra 33 seconds.
Okay, for the architect, related to the placement of the building on the site, how much room do you need of that north of the house dimension to have enough of the building in one pod, additional pod to it? Roughly.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Is the plan handy someplace? Paul, is it up here someplace? Yeah. If we can read it. Whoa, whoa, one more.
200.
And which way do you
Run it back. No, the back pot is what you're trying to replicate.
Yeah,
That-
trying to
okay.
replicate that, so that's like, that's 100 feet, maybe the whole thing's 225, so.
Another 2 acres.
Okay,
What do you ask?
well, keeping it at the back, so that the prime real estate is up front. But keeping it at the back with the prime real estate up front, I know some people want to put it on 46. But it would seem to make more sense to put it far back, and also get an easement granted from that property all the way over to what we call Texas Pike, which has another name, right at 46. It's something to consider. Second thing is, there's property along Texas Pike. Yes, part of it's in a flood zone. I researched that this afternoon. But there's plenty of room with that property not be less money off of Texas Pike than it would be off of 46. And what other potential problems would that create?
Not having access off 46.
And why do we have to have, I've heard some discussion.
Two access points to the property, so they're just like the sheriff said, if there was an accident in front of one.
Okay, so where's the two access points now?
One was in the middle of the property, and the other one was on Texas.
The Square Road.
Quarry Road.
And that's, is that a county road?
Like another driveway.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you've got a maximum amount you can build to, that we're not going to know about until you get the plans drawn and the plans bid. Correct?
Well, I will say,
Guaranteed maximum.
I will say that the plan that we have today is a plan that the sheriff and I have gone through many times.
Mhm.
And I don't see there being a lot of changes to that plan.
Not talking about that before you start, because you got to get the schematic drawings before you put it out to bid.
Right. Go through the whole design process.
Yes.
Design.
Right. I've been through all that, so I understand. I understand, I don't know every comment people can do, but I was a builder in Illinois for many years, okay? Now, you get that plan, you get it bid, but that's the first that you're going to give us a guaranteed maximum price. Is it GMP, what was the abbreviation?
Yeah.
Okay, GMP.
That's it. And that's what,
Right.
that's what BW will.
And good faith on your part, no doubt, you feel like you're comfortable with whatever that's going to be at that time. But how does that compare to our budget? If it goes over, what happens?
There are design contingencies and construction contingencies that are built in these numbers.
Okay.
Paul, I'm going to address that for you.
Yes, please.
You want the mic? Are you sure?
No.
Fans are going to come on, so that all of you know, my first meeting on this was July of 2007. And I've been attending meetings here every year since 2007 to build this jail. Sam was at that meeting, but he was in Richard Lorenzo's office. And we keep going through the same thing year after year after year, and everybody has great intentions, so none of my comments are critical, but just this, specifically to this point. Right now, this year, Garland has $1.6 billion in jail construction underway in Indiana and Georgia. We deal with this every day. I can tell you almost exactly what the square foot cost of a county jail is today. Dustin and his team and I have taken LLOS's plans. We plug those plans in to our most sophisticated models, which are always within plus or minus 10% of the cost today. The current escalation cost in 2026 is 4.1% per year. You take the cost of this jail at $39 million, that's $38,665,000 rounded off, and on $39 million. and you divide that by 250, which are the business days of the year, right now we're looking at $6,600 every day this jail doesn't get built, being added to the cost of that jail. We have built those costs and our model into a January approval of the bonds. That's how we can be absolutely certain that their guaranteed matching price is going to come back into what we're telling you right now. If it didn't come to that, and if the commissioners and council says that's all you got to spend, then the job becomes Dustin, El Gladys, the sheriff, me, the commissioners determining what we can build for that amount of money. We have to take out 10 jail cells, what do we have to do? But I don't think we're going to get that point because we are solidly committed as a team that we're within that budget. Since I have the mic in my hand, the last thing I'll say is that when GW and Garmon were selected, that very day, Garmon sent its cancellation notice into its contract. Pre-existing contract we had for 10 or 15 years. So, or at least 7 or 8 years. So, at least as far as Garmon is concerned, we don't have an outstanding CM contract with the county per se. Our contract is with the BW Garmon agreement.
There is one thing I do know a little bit. I don't know much about BW, but Garmon, for the taxpayers, they are aggressively, and I wrote this down, aggressively protective of the owners.
Because you're on the other side.
I'm on the other side. And they are very good at what they do when it comes to building jails.
Can I ask one more question, please? Just
No.
This is a concern. We're talking about buying so much acreage, building, then selling off. Has there been a survey of how many companies or homes will want to be built next to a jailhouse with a family of 4 children running around playing, and then, I know you guys are really good, but there's been crazy people shooting up schools and everything else. What is the survey that we can sell that acreage off once we buy everything?
Add that commercial.
What's our county risk? A YMCA.
I don't think we're that much further away from where we're at right now.
Well, and I didn't say that was a good statement, okay? But we're talking about, and again, these guys are great. They are. They're absolutely.
My risk, from a personal
But
standpoint,
why
I'm
would
not
we
talk,
build a jail
Go ahead.
next to children?
because I would want the sheriff as close to the school as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't want.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff,
Average response time to an active shooter in the United States is 7 minutes. With us being across the road, this is to schools, would put us within 30 seconds.
okay, I'm not talking about your response time. I'm talking about the
That's
position
important.
of this jail. Should someone escape, now I'm not saying they're going to, okay? I'm not gonna say that you're
I
not
know.
going to do your job. I think you're wonderful, I really do.
Thanks.
But we are in a position where there are children around.
The ice is on
We have a daycare in our backyard right now.
Yeah.
I understand, I didn't say that was a good decision.
Right.
Okay, whoever decided that one was not very well. Why couldn't we get covered? Again, we're not against jail, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, this is not a good position for jail.
I have 2 children in the school system in that school right now. The least of my worries would be somebody escaping my jail and getting to that school. I have 2 children there. They're the most important things in my life. Nothing comes close.
I get that,
It would not even cross my mind that they are a threat.
but are you saying it could not happen ever?
You can never say that about anything.
Okay.
But I can honestly say that the chances of that happening in this facility, the way it's built, they're gonna have to go through so many secure doors, it would be nearly impossible.
They said that about Alcatraz too.
And we never found those people, so we don't know what they just found
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, you know.
Yeah.
Again, they're not gonna do the job. I totally agree.
All right.
But we're in a risk position now, by putting this deal where it's at.
We are getting it further away from the elementary school.
You still have teenagers right across the street. You
Yeah.
still have little kids in the YMCA, and they.
All right, we have moved to the end of public comment, and I do believe that this is time for us to consider action. We have in front of us a resolution that is going to be read by our attorney. What is that?
This is a resolution of the Owen County Council authorizing the purchase of certain real estate. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Owen County, Indiana is authorized to acquire and develop real estate and facilities for the benefit of the citizens of Owen County. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Owen County has advised the Owen County Council the opportunity and potential desirability of acquiring real estate consisting of approximately 18 acres located at 909 West State Highway 46, Spencer, Indiana, in conjunction with a project to develop a jail for the benefit of the residents in the area, and whereas Indiana Code 36-1-10.5-5 requires that to acquire such real estate, the fiscal body, political subdivision shall pass a resolution to the effect that it is interested in making a purchase of specified land. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with Indiana Code 36-1-10.5-5, the Owen County Council hereby expresses its interest in the acquisition of the subject real estate, provided that the Board of Commissioners complies with the other requirements of Indiana Code 36-1-10.5, including without limitation, the requirement that the Board of Commissioners not pay an amount exceeding the average of the two appraisals required by 36-1-10.5-5. Presented to the County Council of Owen County, Indiana, and that is what is up for vote.
Council, you've heard the resolution. Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Motion made by Steve. Is there a second? Seconded by Daniel. Are there any other questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. And one abstention. Now, Sheila, do we need to make a motion of where those funds will come from? Do you want to?
I give you two printouts. We have two different funds, and the 1233 is the correctional fund that has $4.6 million. The other one is the fund that you guys created, the jail project fund, number 9181. In that balance, you can make the motion to use the balance in that fund, and whatever differences are needed for the additional expenses or the balance that is due out of the 1233 fund. There's not enough in the 9181 to pay the full 1.6 and whatever was needed.
Do you understand what she said? All right, we have two funds that have to do with the jail. One has $1,042,630.16, which would not cover the cost of that. The next one has $4,638,709.96. Do we want to close out the one and then pay the balance with the $4 million? Does someone want to make a motion for that?
Make a motion to close that out and pay the remaining balance, just like you said.
Motion made by Steve, seconded by Joe. Are there any questions in that? All those in favor? All those opposed? And one abstention. Okay. I will move it on.
How we meet with that, Commissioners?
Pardon?
How we're going to do the Commissioners' resolution?
I guess you, yeah.
Next, we have A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Owen County, Indiana, approving purchase of certain real estate. Whereas Owen County wishes to acquire real estate consisting of approximately 18 acres located at 909 West State Highway 46, Spencer, Indiana, in conjunction with a project to develop a jail for the benefit of the residents in the area. Whereas on July 27, 2026, the Owen County Council adopted a resolution pursuant to Indiana Code 36-1-10.5-5. And whereas the county has obtained appraisals establishing the value of the subject real estate is equal to or greater than the purchase price. Now therefore be resolved, the Board of Commissioners hereby approves the purchase agreement attached to Exhibit A. Now therefore be it further resolved, Commissioner Hobbs, on behalf of Owen County, is hereby authorized to execute a purchase agreement in substantially the form attached here to as Exhibit A. Is further authorized to execute closing documents and all the documents necessary and proper for the transaction. So that is now the subject of the Commissioner's consideration and vote.
Commissioner, you have a resolution on the table.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as written.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. 3-0. I need one of you commissioners to authorize me to be the sign.
I'll make a motion that we allow the president of the commission to sign the document.
All in favor?
Aye.
We also clarify that it is resolution 2026-007. The council's was 2026-006.
So I'll amend my motion. 2026, what was the last date? 007.
I'll second that.
You guys will need to amend yours. You'll need to amend yours to include the resolution number.
Here. Amendment for ours. We need council, we need an amendment for our motion to include the number, which is 2026-006. All right.
Commissioners need to do theirs the same.
We
already did that. We already did it. Okay. Here, have it back.
We need to vote.
I didn't know you had a number.
All right, we need to vote on the amendment. All those in favor? One abstention. Okay. Daniel. Okay. All right. Is there anything further that we need to vote on?
We need motions to approve for president of the commissioner and the council or whoever to attend the closing. We'll do that process on Thursday, as well as a motion by the commissioners to approve us to do an out-cycle wire transfer that is required for this property sales.
So, council, did you understand?
I make a motion that we allow the president or vice president to attend the closing.
Is there a second? Second. Second by Daniel. All those in favor? Motion carried. You got down to commissioners?
I make a motion that we allow the commission president to attend the closing.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
Do we have a
Aye.
time set?
Well, like I said, saying we gotta do the transfer money.
Also make a motion that we allow a wire transfer of the funds that have already been identified.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. 3-0.
glass, so I can't see it.
Are there anyone else that wants to?
Madam Chair, just a quick clarification. I asked a question, one question to require an answer, and so no one responded. May I ask if that's going to be sent out to the writing? I know I spoke quickly, but it was a simple question.
Can you email that question to me, and then I will get that answer to you?
Yes, ma'am.
I will find out the answer to that, and I will absolutely get it back to you. All right.
Which one's this for?
Sheila, is there anything else that we need to take care of?
I guess it doesn't matter. I'm gonna vote no.
As these bills start coming in, do you want them brought before the commissioners and the council for approval where to pay them from? Or are we just automatically going to pay them out of the 1233 fund? Or I can bring this up in your August 3rd meeting also.
I'd just like to see the bills as they come through. I mean, they're gonna come out of that fund, you know, but I'd like for the commissioners and council to look at the invoices as they come through. So all 10 of us are on the same page.
I
And
absolutely
If
agree.
there's any questions, we can talk about it at the time, so don't nobody be left out there. Talk on that on the bills.
Sounds good to me.
All right, you, Paul?
Anybody else?
I got one more thing.
Yes.
So you budgeted for this calendar year and you only have 19,000 and some dollars left in that for this calendar year. So we will need to do an additional appropriation at your August 3rd meeting to be approved. We can do it at your early meeting on the 26th, or it'll be your September meeting, but we will need to do additional appropriations for expenses.
If there's nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
Already?
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you all.
No, thank you. No,
Thank you. Thanks for being patient with us.